recording.
Not letting me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Delaware National Council of Negro Women and our Cancer Awareness Program, Stories Behind the Pink Ribbon. Now, I know y'all could have been anywhere today. I understand it's 75 degrees outside. I know everybody's trying to run around and have a great time because November has truly forgotten who they are. So what we need to do is say first, thank you to those that did come. And we're going to make sure that today you have a informative, even humorous in some spots, and a program of inspiration. So my name is Dr. Doreen Lowry. I am the first vice president of the Delaware section of the National Council of Negro Women. And I'm also the co-chair of NCNW's National Social Justice Committee. So I welcome you. And we're going to be starting in the spirit that we should be starting with my dear sister, Dr. Sonia Wortham, who is now our NCNW state chaplain, as well as our section chaplain. So I'm going to make sure that we start the day off right, and Sonia will really help us start it off right. And I go turn everything over to Sister Dr. Sonia Wortham.
Thank you so much for such a powerful and passionate introduction to our webinar on this afternoon, Dr. Lowry, and we're going to go before the throne of grace. Dear Father, thank you for your provision and blessing for a successful event. We're so thankful that you have taken care of every detail surrounding this event, and in advance, we praise you for that. You gave us peace, clarity, and wisdom during the planning process, and you subdued and quelled our fears and anxiousness in preparing for this important occasion. You've helped us during the planning process, and we welcome your presence even now during this chasm of space and time. We thank you for giving our presenters the tongue of the learned, that they should know how to speak a word in season. We pray that this event will glorify you in every aspect, and we pray that everything that happened during this moment is according to your will. Let our collective light shine, Father, to cause others to look at this event and see your goodness. Thank you that you always provide for our every need. We decree and declare success and mission accomplished. It is in the name that is above every name that I say, and amen.
Amen. Ashe. Thank you, Dr. Sister. We appreciate it. As we, the program committee of NCNW Del Val, as we were working to pull this program together, one of the things we were very cognizant of is that we can go past the month of October. That when you're talking about this subject, and especially for women of color, and particularly African-American women, this is a topic that can be discussed anytime, anywhere, and anytime that we can make sure that our community gets the information and resources, then that's important. So what we really have tried to do is do a intergenerational program. Again, making sure that people understand that it hits anybody, anytime, any age. And we also wanted to make sure that those of you who are in fact supporters or family members or friends of people who are survivors of breast cancer, we provide you with some resources as well from someone who is supporting someone in that particular role. So what we're going to be doing is beginning this day, you know how you meet a best friend, you just meet a good best friend. I got a new best friend, okay? And my new best friend is Dr. Nia Bailey. Now, I could read this resume, but I'm gonna give you a little bit because sister is bad. She's bad, okay? All right, Dr. Nia, and first of all, Imani Bailey. I need y'all to understand what that means. Dr. Nia Imani Bailey is a DPA, as a doctor. She has her doctorate in public administration. She has an MA in education, and she's a radiation therapy technician. I want y'all to make sure you understand that, but here's the good part. She is 30 years old. This young woman has accomplished all of this in her 30 years, and she right out of West Philly. That's all saying about the West Philly song. Okay, West Philly, born in, okay, West Philly native, and she's been employed as a radiation therapist for the past 7 years. She's also the creator, writer, and director of a documentary called A Letter to My Sisters, a breast cancer documentary for young women. And it gives some insight into the journey of young women. I believe, and she'll tell us more, they're all under 30 years old, which again is really interesting when we think about breast cancer. Nia has also has several books, which we'll provide a link to you on Amazon, that she's done one. I love the names of these books. They're called Love Thy Neighbor. Love Thy Neighbor highlights little girls' mission to feed, clothe, and fellowship with homeless people, which is one of her definitely passions. Her passion is to help people, she said. She believes that it is her purpose in life and why God put her on this earth. Same mission that our founder, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, had. So she very much has something in common with Dr. McLeod, to show the love he has for her and has given to her. Therefore, she needs to show and give others that same love. By doing that, others don't see her, but see him. I know that's deep. Simple as that, she said. I love that. So what we're going to do is start this evening off, in fact, with a small preview of this phenomenal film that she has, this documentary. And later on, we even going to tell y'all how you can do a road trip in December down to Wilmington. And we all going to go see this film in this screening, all right? So I'm going to look at my technician to get us on the way, and we're going to see a brief piece of the documentary, and then we'll go immediately into our special speaker for this evening, Dr. Nia Imani Bailey.
Please unmute. Unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted and we're going to share. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear it, everyone?
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Nia Bailey and I am the writer and creator of this great documentary, A Letter to My Sisters, a breast cancer documentary for young women. So what is that? As a radiation therapist, I've heard many women say to me, my provider, my doctor said I was too young for breast cancer or too young for cancer. And I automatically think to in my head, that's weird, because if little beautiful babies and little beautiful children can be diagnosed with cancer, then you're not too young to be diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. So it's simple. Young women are being diagnosed with breast cancer, advanced breast cancer, and sometimes, unfortunately, passing away. So it's very important to know your family cancer history, to know your body, and advocate for yourself, because you know your body. Only you know your body. Nobody else knows your body like you do. So speak up. So the documentary consists of 3 amazing, amazing women who are also breast cancer survivors. One woman is half Jamaican, half Asian. She was diagnosed in her 20s. Another woman was diagnosed in her 30s, and she's Mexican American. Her interview will be in Spanish entirely, but English subtitles will be provided. And lastly, this beautiful woman is Caucasian and was diagnosed in her 40s. So from the outside looking in, they look completely different, but they're similar in this way. They became a part of a club that they never wanted the membership to. They are breast cancer thrivers. So it's important to read and look at this documentary because it's showing prevention, it's showing how you need to listen to your body, it's showing to simply advocate for yourself. This documentary is also for those who have gone before us, like my friend Janice, Kwania, and Jacqueline, those who are currently fighting the fight, and those who possibly may be fighting this in the future. Take a look at A Letter to My Sisters, a breast cancer documentary for young women.
Time and time again, I just want to win. Don't know where to go. Lord, show me the way. I'm on this road alone. Don't know why you chose me to go through this journey, but I trust you. Time and time again. Time and time again.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Doreen, for that wonderful introduction. West Philly born and raised, playground where I spent most of my days, but that's a different story. I've been a radiation therapist, like Dr. Doreen said, for about 7 years. And I got into the field because my father had prostate cancer, and I really wanted to help people. As soon as I got into the field, I noticed young women, I mean, from 24, 23, 18, being diagnosed with breast cancer. One particular woman, she was 24 years old. We had the same braids, we had the same anklet bracelet, everything. And she was diagnosed with a cancer called triple negative breast cancer. She passed away when she was 24 years old. I said, something has to give. This is not okay. She was African American. So I created this documentary, A Letter to My Sisters, a breast cancer documentary for young women, to tell our generation and everybody else that no matter the age, you can possibly be diagnosed with breast cancer. So the one woman, Janique Rivera, she has a very interesting story, being diagnosed at the age of 29, where the doctors did not believe she had anything wrong with her because of simply her age. Until they finally did the imaging, because she pushed and advocated for herself, and they found she had stage 4 breast cancer. Another woman, Brenda Durante, same thing, in her 30s. She had a different story because of the language barrier, but once again, oh, we don't need to do a mammogram till we're 40. Lynn Mitchell, one who was diagnosed in her 40s, she had it's genetic, it was in her genes, but she still did not get a mammogram per the physicians. So I really wanted to show in this documentary that advocacy is everything. I know sometimes we don't want to push, sometimes we don't feel like it, but you have to do it. So going back to triple negative breast cancer, and specifically because we talk about our people and we really want to save everybody, don't get me wrong, but definitely our people. Triple negative breast cancer is a type of cancer that affects African American women, young women from the ages of 50 to younger, and women who are diagnosed with BRCA1 or BRCA2. It affects us, how? They don't know. They don't know why it affects only African American women, but we do know this. When we get diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, it's aggressive and it's advanced. And the only way that they're able to treat this right now is through surgery, removing the tumor, chemotherapy, and radiation. The reason why it's called triple negative breast cancer is because there's nothing attached to it. Breast cancer has 3 components to it: estrogen, progesterone, and a protein HER2. Triple negative, and its name, does not have any of those components. Why don't they know how it affects us? Let's talk about genetics. Let's talk about why us as a people do not enroll in clinical trials. Well, they don't know how to treat it because Black people don't enroll in clinical trials. Well, why don't we enroll in clinical trials? We have a history of Tuskegee experiment, the Henrietta Lacks story. I mean, just, it's a gamut of it. I don't even know all of it. And there's a distrust in the medical community. We don't want to be used as guinea pigs. We want to help us, don't figure out what's good later on, figure out what's good right now. But the issue is we're passing away from such as triple negative breast cancer because they don't know how to treat it, because we're not enrolling in those clinical trials. And I always tell people, if you don't enroll in clinical trials, not only are we not saving ourselves, but we're not saving the future. You take Tylenol for a headache, right? Well, somebody had to enroll in clinical trials for that. You take Motrin, you may take something else that we don't want to talk about, but somebody had to be tested for that. Same thing. But this is very important, very important. Let's talk about genetics. So me personally, my father had prostate cancer. All of my uncles had prostate cancer. Everybody in my family has cancer, from breast to lung to multiple melanoma. I took that information to my primary care physician, or you can take it to your gynecologist, whomever, and they will suggest you talk to a genetic counselor. You sit down with that genetic counselor and they say, tell me your family history, mom, dad, mom's mom, mom's dad, same on the other side. And they'll say to you, okay,
I think you need to get tested because there's options. When my results came back, it came back negative. But if it came back positive for, say, BRCA1 or BRCA2, I had that information for me to determine, do I want children? If I don't want children, maybe I want a hysterectomy. Maybe I want my ovaries removed. Maybe I want a double mastectomy now, because having BRCA1 and BRCA2 increases the chances of me getting breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Information is power. Now, if you don't know your family history, because a lot of my family, they're secretive. They would say so-and-so died of eating Pope salad, whatever that is, I don't know. Talk to the genetic counselors as well and say, hey, I really don't know, but I want to know. And information is power as well. But be careful. A lot of people talk about genetic counseling, but forget insurance. Please make sure you have insurance first, because although it's confidential, whatever results pop up, it is in your medical record. So some insurances may or may not, especially with this election, who knows what's going to happen. They may not want to cover you, or your premium may be very high. Lastly, I just want to touch base on ways you can reduce your risk of developing breast cancer. Now, there's a nice little acronym, Brenda. We all know a Brenda. Some may like her, some may not, but remember the name Brenda. It's important to breastfeed, not for 10 years, for a year as much as you can. And that decreases the risk of developing breast cancer. Reduce your alcohol and sugary drink intake. Now, I know we're in a generation of getting lit and Cavassier. Maybe I'm dating myself. I don't think they do Cavassier anymore, but all types of drinks. No. Because what researchers are finding is when you binge drink close together, that also increases your risk of developing breast cancer or any type of cancer. And listen, I'm from West Philly. I love some Kool-Aid, but I can't be drinking it all the time because sugary drinks increases the risk of breast cancer. Exercise. I work from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. All I want to do is take a nap after that. But it's important for me to find the time to exercise, to walk around, anything like that, because exercise also reduces your risk. Eat nutritious foods. Very important. I love a cheesesteak and some fries, but you want your plate to be very colorful. You want some kale. You want, instead of the fried chicken, baked chicken, grilled chicken, things like that, because that also reduces your risk. And lastly, achieve a healthy body weight for you. There's no prototype. You know when you're at your healthiest, and that will reduce your risk. Now, I know sometimes people say, well, I eat kale, I eat air, I exercise, I do all this, and I still was diagnosed with breast cancer. And, unfortunately, sometimes that does happen. But it's also important to realize, to share the facts that there are ways to decrease it. Sometimes it's environmental, sometimes it's genetic, and sometimes we don't even know our true genetics. African Americans, what does that mean? Well, Africa's a continent. Where are you from? So I understand that, it's very important to look at Ancestry.com and things like that, and really go back to your roots. There's a doctor by the name of Dr. Lisa Newman that's trying to trace back our African ancestry to determine, hey, if you're Nigerian, you have an X amount increase of developing breast cancer. If you're Ethiopian, you have a lower chance of developing breast cancer and things like that. So I always hope that everyone takes away that it's important to advocate for yourself, know your family history, and all that, so that we can save our lives and our sisters' lives.
Great, Dr. Nia. Thank you so much. And we are open, in fact, if you all want to ask this wonderful young woman some questions, we are open. You can either put them in the chat, and we're monitoring the chat to see if there's any kind of feedback you would like to have her give you some advice. I know that the whole concept of what is happening now, Dr. Nia, when they're telling young women of a certain age, they should not be getting a mammogram. What kind of advice can you give them talking to their doctors?
That's a great question. Advocate and push. I had a personal story of mine. I had fibrocystic breasts. So they feel lumpy. That's all that means. So I said to my doctor, hey, this feels lumpy. Can you feel this? And they said it's muscle. Well, okay, congratulations, but I need a test. So they gave me an ultrasound and they said to me, you have dense breast tissue. Well, that just means you can't see what's on the film. That's all that means. Think of a static, back in the day, my grandma had a big TV that laid on the floor and it would be staticky. That's what it looks like on the film. So I said, okay, well, I need a mammogram. I need a 3D tomography mammogram to see what's going on. They said, well, you're 30. I said, I know how old I am, but you just told me you can't see what it is. So you push. I got a 3D mammography. They said, your breasts are dense. I said, okay, well, then I need a MRI. They said, you're only 30. I said, what is what people trying to tell me how old I am? I know. Once again, push. I got that breast MRI and I had nothing wrong. So push, push, push. That's all I have to say. If you go to X hospital and they still not listening to you, go to the other hospital. Have an advocate with you. Go to Susan G. Komen, go to American Cancer Society. There's always a place and institution that will give that to you, because all that means is when you say you have dense breast tissue is they can't see what's going on.
No, that's
So
true.
you push to get the imaging so that they can see.
So it's something beyond just the standard mammography. We really have to push for further testing.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
That's interesting. Does anyone else have any questions? Do you see any in the chat, Laura?
No, I don't see any questions in the chat as of yet.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions or would like to have Dr. Bailey explain something even any further, that's what she's here for. We've got her for a little while, okay? And just try to find out what other kinds of things we need to ask. I actually would I'm going to mess with Janae because you all are near the same age, okay? And what kind of stigma do you think there is with young women, whatever that means? I'm saying under 30. What kind of stigma is there for young women?
Well, thank you for having me here, and I am more than happy to answer that question. In regards to stigma, I think that a lot of young women don't feel that they can get breast cancer. They don't think that it's going to be them. Me as a survivor, I didn't think that my tumor was breast cancer up into getting 3D mammography. I still thought it was like a cyst or something like that until we wound up doing the biopsy. So yeah, a lot of the stigma is, wow, it really can't happen to me. But the fact of the matter is that it's happening to younger patients, particularly of color, because a lot of us are at higher risk for it due to genetics or lifestyle changes or, lifestyle behavior. So yeah, the stigma is not thinking that it's going to happen to you. And I would add that there's probably some lack of awareness too. So ignorance maybe. If you don't know that you could possibly get it due to certain risk factors, then you won't believe that you can get it. I think I had spoken, I'm not going to over talk, but I think I had spoken last night when we were arranging this, and I talked about the support groups that I had gone to after being diagnosed, because I just needed to talk to somebody that was going through the same thing as me. And a lot of my counterparts who were not African American were very aware of their risks and very, very aware of their options. A lot of them were diagnosed at an earlier stage than me. And when you're diagnosed at an earlier stage, you have more options. You can possibly, if it's pre-cancer, I met a young girl that she was just as upset as anyone that would be metastatic or stage 4, but she had pre-baby cancer, and she wound up having to take a chemotherapy tablet, and it went away, and that was that. So, and then there was another young lady who hers was genetic, and she wound up getting a preventive double mastectomy, and she found out she was BRCA1, and she just said, yeah, I'm going to just get the double mastectomy, and that's that. And her younger sister wound up getting one too, and that was it. That's it. So
that's it. Oh, I hear you. And what I want Dr. Nia to tell us is to give us a real good rundown of the date and everything of the event in Wilmington, what it's going to be about, so that and we're going to, and Laura's already put the link in the chat, but just tell us a little bit about what that event's going to be like in December.
Absolutely. So we'll be in Wilmington. It's called the Theater N, 1007 Orange Street in Wilmington, Delaware. It's a real movie theater, popcorn, candy, all that. And we're just going to show the documentary. Starts out with the woman who was diagnosed in her 20s, woman in her 30s and 40s. It's 50 minutes. I try to cut it down to 5 minutes because I don't have the attention span, but it's all very important information. And we'll have a slight Q&A just for anybody in the audience that has any questions, need resources and things like that, and go about your day. It starts at 7 p.m. and we'll be out of there by 8:30 because I need to take my nap. I need to go to sleep. So
You're taking a nap, this for you. And it's a nominal fee. Tell them what the fee is.
yes, ma'am, it's $20. And it doesn't just go anywhere. All proceeds go to 3 organizations, Breast Cancer Research Foundation, my organization, Agape, Finding Your Purpose, Incorporating Your Faith, Helping the Homeless, and then my friend's organization to help with literacy issues in the inner city.
So it's not just like you said, it's helping all kinds of different organizations. And I'm always about information. So it's making sure information is out there. So listen, I want us all to give an electronic hand, okay, to our guest speaker, Dr. Nia Imani Bailey. We thank you for being here. And I know you've got another commitment to, today. So, again, thank you. We'll be talking soon. We're going to be doing something again with NCNW where we actually have our own screening with you. Okay, with this piece. So we definitely are. So
there is one question, Doc.
There is good. Where is it?
Yes, one question. What is pre-cancer? I never heard that term, from Deborah Richardson.
Great. Thank you, Deborah.
Do you want to take it, Beauty? Janae?
Okay, thank you. I would say that pre-cancer or baby cancer is just maybe cellular changes that are happening before it turns invasive or before it gets to be a little bit out of control, and it can be controlled much easier in that situation. And it's hard to find unless you can back me up here, unless there's some imaging. Because you can't really feel for it. If you feel some changes, maybe if you get the right doctor, they'll push you through for imaging. But for the most part, you should have to be on top of it in regards to how you feel. And sometimes you don't feel anything. Sometimes you're not feeling any pain at all associated with it. I think this young lady just knew that she had an increased risk through her family lineage. Her mother and grandmother had it. So I think she was a little bit more hyper aware and understood that she possibly could develop it. And she just so happened to catch it extremely early. Sometimes they call it stage 0, also associated with in situ, Dr. Bailey.
Yep, you're right.
Okay, so I think it might have been like before stage 0 or right at it.
Right. I know a lot of people consider themselves pre-vivors, meaning that so they'll kind of figure out either with imaging or they got the genetic testing done and they found out they were BRCA1 or BRCA2, so they just went ahead and did the double mastectomy, like you said, and then that's why they call themselves pre-vivors, because they don't have cancer, but they did it preventatively.
Great. Well, listen, I thank you both. I really do. Thank you. Sherry, do you have your hand up? You're on mute.
I just wanted to reiterate what Janae said. So baby cancer or pre-cancer is when your doctor notices or finds cells that are of a different shape and a different size. So if you hear that term, your doctor has found, like Janae mentioned, some cells that look different than the other cells in that area.
Great. They're great. So that's some great information. Well, I thank all of you for your input. I think the young woman Deborah, who asked the question, and we will bid you adieu, Dr. Bailey. And thank you so much for being part of this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're actually going to move on to this phenomenal intergenerational conversation. And what's so interesting, I just thought about, Sherry, that I'm introducing you as a pediatric, of course, nurse, and we're talking about baby cells. So again, how you say a perfect segue. Okay, a perfect segue. So what we're going to be segue into is that our moderator is Ms. Sherry M. Johnson. And Sherry is a fairly new member of NCNW. How long have you been with us, Sherry?
For just about a year.
Okay.
November will be a year for me. Yes.
And she has come in with programming committee, and we have already been putting her to work. Okay. And Sherry is a MSN and RM, and as I said, a CPN, certified pediatric nurse. And she's currently director of case management at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children, which is a partnership of Tower Health and Drexel University. And she has been in the field. She must have started when she was 7 for 28 years of nursing and community service. She's been at Children's Hospital as a professional nurse and a clinical nurse and a clinical supervisor. She's been at Temple as a clinical resource case manager. She's been the assistant director of nursing and education. And what I really have learned to appreciate with her and a couple of our other NCNW sisters is that she belongs to a phenomenal sorority, Chi Eta Phi Sorority Incorporated, which is the nursing sorority. And she's a member of the National League of Nursing, Case Management Society of America, and of course, the Delaware section of National Council of Negro Women. And Sherry will be taking the rest of the part of this program. She'll be introducing our panelists and giving them questions. And then you have until 6:45 to make sure that your questions are put in the chat so we can make sure we answer them. So I turn this over to our wonderful moderator, Ms. Sherry M. Johnson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am going to introduce our intergenerational panel of brave, strong thrivers and survivors of breast cancer. I hope, and I know I speak for the panel, that as they tell their stories, you can gain some supportive tips and some good ideas and just some courage if you're currently going through breast cancer from their stories. I'm going to introduce Karen Oliver. Karen is the daughter of a mother who passed away from advanced stage breast cancer in 1971 when her mother was at the age of 43. Karen was only 18 years old. This experience has always fueled Karen's passion to advocate hard for herself, for her family, and others in all things related to breast cancer. Karen has worked with the American Cancer Society as a Reach to Recovery volunteer trainer and as a spokesperson for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk. Karen is currently a spokesperson for Women of Faith and Hope, a faith-based cancer support group that moderates their Women's Health Information Series. Karen has learned that surviving breast cancer a second time through the pandemic was not for the faint of heart, and some lessons were learned. Early detection is still the key to living a strong, healthy, and happy life after breast cancer. Our second panelist is Janae Beausoleil. I'm sorry if I.
You can do it. Beausoleil.
Beausoleil. Okay. Janae Beausoleil. Janae is currently a contact center supervisor for Benefit Data Trust, a nonprofit in Philadelphia that works to address food insecurities among the nation's most vulnerable population. Janae was diagnosed with stage 2 breast estrogen and progesterone positive breast cancer in 2015. At that time, Janae was only 27 years old. Her experience with treatment and navigating her diagnosis led her to become a member of the advisory board of breastcancer.org's online community and advocate for young breast cancer patients. Janae believes the true cure for breast cancer is the implementation of awareness and education about the disease within her community. Our next panelist is Laura S. Riddick. Laura continues to be a strong advocate for women's health by sharing her story and engaging women in her community to become more knowledgeable about this disease, pay attention to their bodies, and get yearly mammograms. She is an 18-year breast survivor who is living her best life as a retired higher education administrator. Laura also is the second vice president in charge of membership for the Delaware section of the National Council of Negro Women. Laura was diagnosed with stage 0 ductal carcinoma in situ breast cancer of the right breast in 2004. She was 48 years of age. Her experience with her mother, who was diagnosed with stage 4 advanced breast cancer in 1997, in which she had a mastectomy and an intensive battle with chemotherapy treatments. Her mother went into remission for 8 years until the cancer returned in 2004. She died at the age of 68. This experience propelled Laura to move quickly in evaluating her specific type of breast cancer and scheduling a lumpectomy surgery and radiation treatments to kill all cancer cells from spreading and a hope to live a cancer-free life. Our last panelist, one second. I have to pull her bio, 1 second. It's Christine Young Thomas. Christine is affectionately known as Mama Chris. She developed and founded the first African-centered high school in Philadelphia. You may have heard of it, Imhotep Charter School. Imhotep Charter School began in 1998 and is still going strong 24 years later. Imhotep was also the first charter school to be built from the ground up. Mama Chris graduated from Cheney with a BS and a master's in school administration. She also attended Arcadia University and just received her doctorate in divinity from Dominion Theological Seminar. Christine says she is a woman of God and a community advocate and is always centering our children and everything that she does. Welcome, panelists. I'm going to start off by asking each one of you ladies to tell us about what was your diagnosis and how and when did you discover your diagnosis. Laura, how about you go first?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this very important session and to talk about breast cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 0. So that means that, you know, that there was no stage. I was like considered one of those precancerous type breast cancer diagnosis. Ductal
DCIS.
DCIS. I had to give you the acronym. And you know, that's one of the things about being diagnosed with breast cancer. You get all these terms, and just to hear the term is so frightening, you know, so you have to go and look it up. So that happened in 2004. It was not, I never felt a lump or anything. My cancer was discovered through a mammogram. And I remember going for my routine mammogram because as Sherry had said, my mother had cancer. And so that was a ritual that we did every year. We went for our mammograms. And when I went to my doctor and I had the mammogram, I got a call, you know, after the results that something looked suspicious. and they wanted to do a biopsy. And because my mother, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was a registered nurse, and I'm just, I'm not trying to say anything about Sherry, but the nurses are the worst patients. And she decided that she was not going to get the biopsy, and she didn't. So 2 years passed by, and she had a little mild heart attack, and she felt the lump. And at that point, her cancer was at stage 4. And I believe if she had gotten the biopsy in the beginning, when they first suspected something, she might have not had to go through everything that she went through, and probably would be here today with us. So for myself, I immediately scheduled the biopsy the next week. I had the biopsy, and that in itself, I must say, the biopsy is when they, stick a needle in your breast and they take a tissue from it. And that whole process in itself is just very scary, so but that's something that I would encourage women to have a better understanding of if they have to have a biopsy, so that that alleviate that fear of going to get that done. Once I had my biopsy, I had assumed, just like Janae had said, I just had assumed that, it's just fibroid tissues, because I had big breasts, and I already was told that my breast was dense and it was fibroic and all of that. But then when I went to the doctor for the results and he told me that it was cancer, I really was in somewhat of a state of denial. I heard the word and I just was in disbelief. And I don't know why I was in disbelief, because my mother had breast cancer. But again, that comes from the lack of not knowing about the hereditary connection that cancer could have, so all of this kind of just, I felt like my world was just turned upside down. I just like to tell you what ductal
Yep.
cortisone, I can't even say it.
Carcinoma.
DCIS,
Uh-huh.
carcinoma in situ, DCIS, breast cancer. Just to tell you what it is, it is an early, localized cluster of cancer cells that start in the milk passage ducts, but it has not penetrated in the duct walls into the surrounding tissues. The term in situ refers to a tumor that has not spread beyond the place where it originally developed. By definition, DCIS is a non-invasive form of breast cancer because the cancer cells are confined to those milk ducts of the breast. And also, it's sometimes described as precancerous, pre-invasive, non-invasive, or inductal carcinoma. Although by definition, DCIS is a non-invasive form of breast cancer. If left untreated, it may progress to true breast cancer by spreading into the invading of the surrounding healthy breast tissues. So with knowing that, I immediately went to the library and I actually looked up that particular type of breast cancer that I had, and I studied and I put together a portfolio because I had to go back to the doctor to make a decision whether I was going to have a mastectomy or a lumpectomy. And based on what I read and based on what the doctor told me, that my tumor was so small, it was like as small as a pea, that I can make that choice. It was a hard choice because I knew my mother had breast cancer and I was leaning towards the mastectomy, but I prayed about it and I went for the lumpectomy based on the science and all the information that was put before me. And I had radiation treatment along with taking the cancer pill tamoxifen for 2 years and Arimidex for 3 years. So that was my breast cancer treatment when I was diagnosed. And it was very, very frightening. It also changed my lifestyle, and one of the things I would, I think that really the thing that I lacked the most was not knowing about the health risks in terms of like nutrition, because the drugs that I took, the pills, it made me gain weight. I was going through menopause. I mean, I was going through a whole lot of different things. And again, awareness is so important. And if I could have done it again, gone through the process again, I would have wanted to be in this time of breast cancer awareness, because there's so much more information out that's available for women to get the right information.
Thank you, Laura.
Mhm.
Karen, could you discuss or talk about what symptoms should women look for when they are screening themselves for breast cancer? I know you have done a lot of work as an advocate and outreach and done training. So what type of tips or education do you provide to women who are in this event or caring for someone, or how they should screen themselves?
Okay, so just to give you just a little bit of brief information, I was originally diagnosed with breast cancer in 1992, and I was 39 years old. I did not feel a lump. My mother, as it was noted, had died and she was only 43. So me being 18 years old at the time of her diagnosis and going through, which was a short period of time, so it was advanced stage. I had nothing to glean on as to what I should do for me. And when I was diagnosed, it was found not through a mammogram, but through my gynecologist doing a physical exam. Physical exams, we should all, these are one of the most important things. We know our body, but we should all touch ourselves to find those lumps, to find those irregularities in our bodies. That's the first key, and that's the most important key. As Laura was saying, today we know so much more. There are videos, there are YouTubes. I guess in such a breast cancer community, I see people showing you how to do exams on yourself. Back in 1992, nobody was showing me anything, okay? And back in 1971, even as a young woman at 18 years old, my mother having gone through breast cancer, still nothing. It was like, we don't talk about the C word. But as I educated myself and my gynecologist, who was right on point, showed me further how to do a breast exam. So that's one of the things. A lot of us don't even know or don't even feel a lump in the beginning. And a lot of times it can be shown on a mammogram, and then sometimes not. So we do have to be careful. We do have to do examinations for ourselves. It was also brought up earlier in regards to what we put in our bodies, what we eat. A lot of cancers can be hereditary, but a lot of it is environmental too. Just the air. I don't want to say the air that we breathe, but just the environment and the things that are in the air, what we subject ourselves to, that is also very important. But in regards to what we do, another thing is you need to have a good team of doctors. Don't be afraid. They're your team. You're the CEO. You're the master of that team. Ask all the questions you need to ask, especially if you have genetics or family history. And if you don't, still ask. And if you don't like that question, don't like that answer, get another answer. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion from anyone. So I hope I answered some of what you were asking in regards to
the symptoms.
The symptoms.
But
yeah.
I like what you said about doctors. Thank you for bringing that up. What would you say to someone who went to if they felt a lump? Should they go just to their regular doctor? What type of doctor should they anticipate on, going further on this journey with?
Yeah, So if you do find a lump and you have a good relationship with your primary care provider, you can start with that person. And then, engage that conversation. What is this, and as a woman, they're saying mammograms they start at 40 years old if you have no previous history. But if you feel as though you need to get a mammogram, press your doctor further with that. Ask him to give you a referral to see a breast surgeon. They can really because that's their job. That's their number one job. They can really tell, feel, and do more, explore a little bit further than your primary care doctor. But start with your primary care doctor and entertain that conversation. Tell them what it is you're feeling, how you're feeling, and then go from there. So primary care, maybe into a breast surgeon, and then they'll take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see Janae's got a question.
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to echo with what Karen said about her having a relationship with her primary care physician and then getting referred out. That's exactly what happened to me, particularly as a young patient. I had my mother's GYN initially tell me when I was 26, when I started to feel breast changes and I thought it was odd. I had her kind of dismiss it, and she told me to kind of, don't worry about it. So I waited a year. And at that point, I didn't have a tumor. And then at the time I turned 27, I had a tumor, and it was beginning to be palpable, and you could feel it, and it was definitely something going on. So needless to say, I went to my primary care physician, who is very good friends with a breast surgeon at Chestnut Hill Health here in Philadelphia. And immediately he felt it and said, yeah, I'm going to send you to Dr. Bailey at Chestnut Hill Women's Center.
Yes.
Dr. Bailey performed the biopsy herself and sent it right over to University of Penn and whisked me away. So there's no one right way. Sometimes radiologists diagnose you. Sometimes it's, it just really depends. But like Karen said, make sure you develop a team as time goes and keep note of these people and stay in contact with them as well, because they're ultimately saving your life as best as they can.
Janae, I didn't know that Dr. Bailey was your doctor. Dr. Bailey did both of my
Wow.
mastectomies.
Now, would you look at that?
We are connected, sister.
She's an amazing doctor.
I want to echo that Dr. Bailey was also a
Stop.
Right.
Wow.
She was awesome. Awesome.
We're gonna have to get Dr. Bailey, the other Dr. Bailey on here.
She's retired now. She's retired. She's but I'm sure I'm sure she would.
So Dr. Bailey started with me in 1992. Okay. So that's how long of a relationship I had with her up until retirement. And I broke in her replacement.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And then at which she has left, but that's another story. We can talk about that.
Okay.
The second diagnosis of cancer for myself in the next breast, and to just give you another part of that history, when I was diagnosed at 39, knowing and seeing what my mother went through when I was 18 and how they did cobalt radiation treatments that fried her to a crisp. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had the option of doing a lumpectomy. As a matter of fact, they wanted me to just do a lumpectomy. And I said, no, do a mastectomy, take it off, and reconstruction. So 1992 was early on with that. If they said that if they knew then what they know now, they would have advised me or recommended me doing a bilateral mastectomy at that time, because 28 years later in 2020, I was diagnosed with inductal carcinoma in situ in 2020. At that time, I was 68.
Mm.
So that's my history. And then this time I had to do chemo radiation, whereas the first time, because I opted not to do a lumpectomy, they said, okay, well, we've taken everything from the right breast, so you don't have to do chemo, you don't have to do radiation, and you don't have to do tamoxifen. Things have changed a lot.
Laura, you have a question?
Yes, no, I just wanted to comment in terms of your question about what type of doctor. And one of the things I want to stress is that I chose a hematologist oncologist. And I think that's really important. You know, there are oncology doctors that deal with cancer, but a hematologist oncologist doctor deals with blood, you know, the blood diseases. And cancer is a blood disease. They're looking at your blood, your red blood cells, your white blood cells, you know, and the hematologist, I think that was one of the things that really was a success in me being cancer free to this day, is that my doctor was constantly, you know, running blood work on various things, always tracking. And to this day, my doctor from my diagnosis in 2004 is still my doctor today. Dr. Roy Gay was my doctor. And you know, having that long-term relationship, even though I'm cancer free, I still go once a year. Like I go to my GYN doctor, I go to my internalist, you know, I have a pulmonary doctor, you know, I go for the lungs because of having the radiation. I make sure that there's nothing going on with my lungs, anything that impact that procedure. So having that relationship with, as Karen said, you know, that team of doctors, and they all know each other and they all have the same information. They can work together collectively. That is so key and very important for women when they're diagnosed with breast cancer.
Thanks, Laura. Mama Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, and you can segue into the type of doctor that worked with you?
Yeah, actually, I am a survivor's care manager, because it was my mother who was diagnosed in 2007. And with the same DCIS, she had very dense breasts, and they kept trying to figure out what was going on. There was no lump, because it's really more of the stringy, long one the cancer is. And so if you don't do the 3D imaging, they kept going over and over again. But then when they did the 3D imaging, that's how they could see it. I come from a family of members dealing with all types of cancer. And so it's one of the reasons why I was happy to do the African ancestry, to kind of track all the way back and see what was going on, and following the family lines and the death records and all of that of my grandmother and great grandmother and all of them, to find that out. So the reason that I wanted to make sure I shared is what you talked about, the doctor, because of my mom's cancer and the family history of cancer, my grandfather and all that. My brother had to kind of fight, because he is a doctor, he is a oncologist, but he decided to be dual, and he's an oncologist hematologist. For the same thing you said, you got to know about the blood. So my grandfather got sick. That's when he made that decision to become that kind of a doctor. And I think that's important. Also, the fact that sometimes the challenge with the DCIS is the regular, you don't feel necessarily a lump. Hers almost looked like the picture that we see of the solar system, and it was dense. It's little like spots, because you're looking at it. That 3D lets you see the long and it's cross-sectional, but otherwise you might not feel. She never felt a lump. There were no lumps. It was her regular going and getting checked up because of the cancer in the family, and that's how we were able to find it. So in 2007, she had a complete mastectomy on her right breast. And I always talk about one of the things you also need to do when you're dealing with this is kind of keep a sense of humor. So the night before her surgery, she walked around the house mirror to mirror without anything on the top, telling the left breast, goodbye to the right breast, because it wasn't right for her. And she went out to, she worked with Women of Hope and Faith, and she went and talked to women constantly about, you gotta deal with this, but you kind of have some humor and move forward and then tell your story. And that's why this is important. Tell your story so that so many people would find out all of the different things. You know, for me, I make sure that I check. I have 2 daughters, you know, so we need to make sure that programs like this bring us to the awareness that you might not feel that lump, but having that regular checkup and blood work and all of that can definitely give you ahead of game. And so I was glad to be able to get on as someone who helped take care of her. She's going to be 90 next month. So yeah, and still has a sense of humor, and is doing, you know, she's doing the best she can with what she has, but she has had no other things with cancer in reference to that.
All right, thank you for sharing that story.
Mm-hmm.
To the panelists, y'all spoke about doctors having a relationship. There's literature out there that speaks about particularly women of color not feeling, not being heard, and downright sometimes feeling like they're being discriminated against.
Yeah.
How does racial bias, how would you think that would affect the diagnosis of breast cancer, particularly in the African American community?
If I can speak on that, as a volunteer and a trainer with American Cancer Society's Reach to Recovery program, and I was in that program for many, many years. I talked and listened to women who either were afraid to express their fears with their diagnosis, only did what the doctor said because they felt the doctor knew it all. And they were afraid to include the doctor in their team. And then I personally have been talked down to by, you know, a physician, and I've had to dismiss that person because you can do that. You can dismiss your doctor if they're not meeting your needs or speaking to you in a way that is not condescending and is intelligent, you know, and maligning your intelligence. I mean, we don't know everything, true, but there's a way that things can be conveyed. And I've had to ask for another doctor, you know, or go somewhere else. Again, you are the master of this team, and you should not have to put up with anything if you're feeling uncomfortable. And then there are some women who don't, you know, they're just, I remember my daughter's an RN, and she went to a visit with me. I was having her go to all my visits this second time around. And after we had a visit, she kind of pulled me aside and she said, "Mom, I don't like the way she's talking to you. You know, I don't, you know," and then she kind of, and I was in such a different state. I'm hearing other things in my head, thinking about what the doctor's saying, but my daughter was picking up something different that I didn't really pick up. And it took her to kind of go over that again. And I had to address that at my next visit. So it is important. And that's why it's always good to have someone go with you also. Because you're once they say you got cancer and the stuff just it starts rolling. You know, you don't really know what you're hearing. It's always good to have a trusted person to go with you that can pick up some things you miss, whether it be in the technical details or it be in the emotional, personal details in how they perceive you. I believe that's important.
Thank you. Janae?
Yes, thank you. I also want to piggyback off of that. After getting diagnosed, I got a chance to read up on cancer, and in one of the books that I had read, it was a book by the Mayo Clinic. It's called the Breast Cancer. I think it's called the Breast Cancer book. I'll put it in the chat. It suggested doctor shopping and not taking the word of just one physician. And I arrived at, I won't name the place just to talk bad about them, but I arrived at one cancer center and didn't have a good experience because one of the nurses had told me, listen, we're going to prescribe you this medicine and you have to take it. I do know that sometimes your population doesn't take it. I think she was trying to insinuate that Black folks might not be complying and taking medicine. Perhaps because I was young, their approach was just different. And it was good to have my parents with me. Just like Ms. Karen had stated, having somebody with you is important because they hear things that you can't hear. And being empowered with information on knowing what to expect and knowing that you don't have to just take one answer. There's no wrong way to go about removing cancer. There's no one way to go about treatment, because now in 2022, cancer treatment is more customized. So for one person, they might give one drug, and another person, they might give something else. So it's getting more personalized and more customized. So I think that we can approach racial bias with being empowered. And if you are empowered with information, you won't be able to take any crap off of anyone at all at any time. So I definitely loved your answer, Ms. Karen, and that was really good. I'm happy that you shopped around and you chose a different physician. In my case, I chose another doctor that was peers with the other one that I saw. And she had said to me, well, we know each other, right? And I said, yeah, I don't care. I like you better, and it's just like that sometimes. So you have to go with what you're comfortable with.
This is true. We have thanks, Janae. We have a question. Lori Odom put in the chat, 40 seems to be the magic number. What is the age women should have a mammogram when your mother has had breast cancer? When it's that legacy, or when it's that DNA?
And I'm going to answer, for me, and hi, Lori, I know her. Because of the family history, my mother, me, and I have a daughter, I have a sister, I have 2 nieces, and I also have a granddaughter. My daughter started getting mammograms at 35. And I, as the daughter of a mother, I also, my gynecologist pushed this, started getting mammograms at about 35, 36. I think I had my first mammogram. But check with your doctor. That's what I know personally, but check with your doctor. I'm not saying but I'm pretty sure it's got to be earlier than 40.
Definitely.
Okay.
I like to also,
Go ahead, Laura.
because I was diagnosed at 48. So I was in my 40s when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but I had been having mammograms since I was 35. And I had the mammogram with my mother. And once my mother was diagnosed, that made me kind of eligible, because I would always be persistent, because even back then they didn't want you to have mammograms. Well, they really didn't have the age on it, because I'm talking about, in 2000, they really didn't have the age on it, but my mom was diagnosed in 1999. And if you wanted a mammogram, you could get it. It wasn't like a very popular thing as a part of the health package for women. We were told, we went to see our GYNs and OB-GYNs when we were having babies, but a mammogram really wasn't a part of our ritual in terms of, thinking about our breasts. But I started having my mammograms at 35. And I think that was a blessing, because that's how they were able, with the type of DCIS, the type of cancer I had, which I had no lump. They picked it up in the mammogram because they made comparisons to other mammograms that were taken, to determine that something was different, and suspicious.
Laura, can I ask you, was there a particular reason why at age 35 you wanted to get the mammogram, or you felt that you needed to get one at that age? I'm just curious.
Well, actually, it was like my mom and I, we were like sisters. We were best friends. And she was scared. Now, she was a nurse, a RN, and she was scared to, and we had started hearing about, like, they have started saying something about mammograms. And so we were like, okay, let's go get a mammogram. It was like, let's do this. This is a new health thing that maybe we should be concerned about. And we went and had it. And so we made it like a ritual to go like once a year to get it, because they didn't put a time frame on it. So we made that a part of our yearly physical, along with our, seeing our internalist doctor or GYN doctor. And so that's how mine was. It was just like one of those things. But I'm saying to women today, it should be a part of your physical daily, yearly exams.
I know I have not had cancer. I've had 2 lumpectomies that were both benign, but because I was had very large breasts, and a doctor told me I probably should start getting mammograms earlier because my breast was so huge. And I did get mine at 35 also. I was just wondering.
Yeah, well, I had huge breasts too. Maybe that was one of the reasons why too. I can't remember now. You trying to make me go way, way, way back, and that's just too far to think about why I did it. But big breasts probably had something to do with it too.
It's more dense tissue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, more dense tissue.
So I'm gonna go. Okay, so prevention and risk, knowing what we can do to prevent our occurrences, and knowing what the risks are very important. In October of this year, there was an article by the American Cancer Society in which they found that 30% of breast cancer may actually be preventable with lifestyle changes. So I'm going to ask the panel some questions about preventative measures and what their experiences with coming to grips with their lifestyles in terms of risk and prevention. Someone did mention genetic counseling. I think that was Karen, actually. Was it you, Karen, that spoke about counseling?
Yes, true, but I don't know if I spoke about genetic.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll present it to whoever wants to pick it up about counseling, genetic counseling, knowing the history, to talk about the importance of checking on both sides of the family, what the history or the lineage is.
I don't mind taking it.
Okay.
DNA legacy, yes, Dr. Lowry. So in my case, I was able to find out in the beginning that I didn't have any genetic mutations. And just to kind of rewind, the doctors wanted to take initiative to test me because I was so young at diagnosis, and it's odd. Breast cancer before the age of 40 is considered high risk. So they want to figure out, how did this happen? So typically genetic testing, there's 2 very known mutations. Some of you may seen it. BRCA1 and BRCA2 are very, very popular mutations that have gained a lot of popularity. But there's other mutations that exist that are also tested for as well. And when I got a chance to do the testing, it was I was negative for everything. In fact, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to have a mutation or a reason as to figure out why. The other piece to that, though, I would say, particularly for Black women, if you wind up being negative for any mutations for any type of cancer, if it's possible, have discussions with your family about breast cancer occurrences within your paternal and maternal lineage, because it's really important. I knew my father's sister had breast cancer, and she passed away. She got diagnosed actually the same age as me, and then passed away probably in her late 30s. So that was one person. And then later on, after traveling and meeting other family, I found out that other aunts and cousins and other female family members on my father's side actually had it too. And because of that, even though there's no formal mutation discovered yet, we definitely know after telling my oncologist that we definitely identified that there's some sort of hereditary, there's even cancer syndromes out there where, you've got certain family members that get it and there's no known mutation, but it's definitely a higher risk than the average person. So I would say that's my experience with genetic testing. It was a little disappointing because I kind of wanted a mutation. I did, because it would have given me the reason, I would have been able to pinpoint, but now I know it's familial. So.
But Janae, only because I know, tell them how many women, when you went to St. Lucia, you were the shock.
Definitely. So my father's sister, my dad is from Ghana, so my father's sister had it. That's one. And then these women in St. Lucia were the nieces and the cousins of my great grandfather, and it was 6 of them that all had breast cancer. Excuse me. 2 had passed away, and the other 3 are still alive. Yeah. So, and those women are very active in the Caribbean with breast cancer awareness. And the access to care is extremely different in the Caribbean. Most people fly to Trinidad or Jamaica or to Florida to get care because they don't have what we have here. So, yeah. So ask the question. Sometimes I think in our communities, it's kind of hard to ask the hard questions. Some people don't want to talk about having cancer. They just don't want to. Yeah. So, but dig deep if you can.
Okay. Thank you, Janae. We have some questions. Patricia Alford wants to ask, is there any advice for women who are in their 70s?
Yes, get your mammogram, because one thing I could say about older women, I'm not quite 70 yet. I'm headed towards there, but the older a woman is, the more hesitant she is to get yearly mammograms. And so, and that at that point, that is when all women, if you're past age 70, you should definitely be getting a mammogram every year. To make sure that you're okay. Because I can't imagine having to go through breast cancer treatment at the age of 70. When I went through it at age 48, it was very traumatic. And I would figure when you're in your 70s, I don't want to say you're at the end of your life, but you're close to the end of your life. And so you don't want to, right.
Yeah, you speak for you. Speak for you.
I mean, we're all going to live to be 100, but I'm just saying, usually that's at the point you're retired, you're ready to live your best life. You don't want to come down with, a disease like breast cancer that's going to take all that away. You've worked all your life and so forth. But so I would just stress that it's so important to, and also important to have sometimes women fall off having a GYN doctor. They try to go to an internalist for everything. An internalist is an internalist. They're for your whole body. But the GYN doctors is for the female part, and so that's why it's important to have those 2 physicians. That's a part of your yearly routine checkup.
And I'm going to jump in if I can, because Laura, I'm 70 now, and
all right. You don't put out the pasture, Laura.
But
you're still very active.
Right. Don't put us down yet. Okay.
No.
You still look good, Karen. You still look good.
Okay. So, and to answer that question, I was 39 at my first diagnosis, and I saw something in the chat about mental health, and I'm going to address that if I can real quick too. I was in a fight or flight mode at 39. I was in a fight mode. I had 2 young children. I was just newly separated from my husband, hearing cancer. I was fighting. I don't even know what happened. I wasn't I couldn't be scared. I was too scared to be scared. Let's put it that way. Because I needed to live for my children. I knew my mother left my sister and I when we were 13 and 18 years old. I wasn't leaving my 12 and 15-year-old at the time when I was 39. Jump forward to 2020 and I'm 68. Now I'm like, I'm not in the fight, I'm in the flight mode. I want to retire. I want to try to live my best life. And then we're going into a pandemic and you tell me I have cancer and I've got to go through treatment and I've got to do this and that. I was a Looney Tune. It was suggested to me from my not my primary care physician, from my breast surgeon and the nurse navigator, did I want to look into mental health? Did I want to talk to someone? Now, a lot of us are like, now I want to say, let me rephrase that. Most of our community does not like to do mental health because they right away, it's like crazy. Well, I was crazy and I needed to talk to someone. And that was one of the best decisions I added into my healthcare care at that time. I needed to talk to someone. And I suggest that for everyone at this point, whether you're going through cancer or not. Stress has a lot to do with cancers. And we need to manage the stress. It wasn't just that the chemo was flipping me upside down and sideways. Literally, chemo breaks down every part of your body, the good cells and the bad cells, the mental cells and the physical cells. And I was a basket case. But having that mental piece helped me navigate and manage my stress, how I handled my day. It really helped. And I would suggest that if you have to go through any type of serious, life-changing medical issue, don't rule out the head part. That's also very important because that is the key to your recovery. A great part of it is your key to your recovery. I had a lot of, as Mama Christine mentioned, humor. That's a great part of your mental recovery too, and your physical recovery. So what to do when you're 70? Stay healthy, do the right thing, exercise, and also check in on your mental health and your self-care.
Okay. Is Mama Chris still on?
No, she's not on.
Okay. Well, I have another question, and I'm going to ask the panel this question, and then we're going to segue into supports, because this question is a perfect segue from Angela McNeil. Angela wants to know, what is the best way to support a friend with breast cancer? Are there any do's and don'ts?
I would like to just chime in on that, to just say, just be there for that friend when they need them. You know, a lot of times I was fortunate. I had a husband, my mother was alive, I had friends. So when I had people to go with me to like doctor appointments, and particularly when after you have the surgery, you need help. I just think about those women out there who are single, who don't have a significant other, where are they getting their help? So this is where a friend could really be a help driving that person, to appointments. Because when you're going through treatment, you're in a very weak stage, and you need the assistance. Also having someone to talk to, and doing things like getting that person out, going to the movie or see a play or something, not sit around talking about the disease, but more so like just being that friend that the things that you used to do together as a friend, and don't think that the cancer is stopping you from like going out to a party or something, or going to church together, or going to check out a movie or something, or being part of a book club. We started a book club, and when I had cancer, we started a book club called BABS, Black African Princess Society. and we had a lot of fun. And that really took my mind off of everything that I was going through, because I was just connecting with my closest and dearest friends, you know, just being me, doing the things that I love to do.
Okay. Also,
I was just going to piggyback on that one real quick, because I went through it during the pandemic when I couldn't have anybody over, couldn't have anybody to be there physically for me. My daughter, and this was in the beginning of the pandemic, my daughter used to hazmat up and come over and do things. But to answer that question for Angela, everyone shows love in a different way. And I can tell you personally, calling me up and saying, do you need a meal today?
Mm-hmm.
Or can I do your laundry today for you? Just little things, you know, doesn't have to be a big thing. Can I go to the market? Hey, I'm heading out to the market. What is it that you need? Just like I said, and it's okay to call, how are you doing? But it's better to like, what can I do for you today? What do you need today? Little things is the best. I know it helped me a lot, and I try to impart that with friends that I know that are going through this journey. But that's one of the, coming from someone who's been there, just so what is it that you need today? You want me to bring you, can I bring you a meal today? Can I cook for you today? What is it that you like? I'm going to stop over, get your clothes together. I'll wash a load of clothes for you today. Those little things.
To feel normal, I would just like to gossip with my girlfriend. So, so my friends would call, and we would just be talking about everything but the cancer, which was actually really good, because it was help me feel a little bit more normal. So shout out to my friend. One of them's here, Tola. I see you. Thank you for coming.
And to be transparent, Tola and Janae and Karen were all students of mine at Arcadia. So shout out to Tola. I just love the fact that she's here. And to even show you how trying to make it normal from a person, you know, who did not have breast cancer. When Janae saw me, and we hadn't seen each other in a while, and she told me everything. And because I see her as my child in many ways, I literally started laying hands on her breast and wanted to know what they felt like. And we are in the public at Uncle Bobby's.
And I let her.
And she let me. I was like, was that one doing okay? Or how
Uncle Bobby's?
Yes. Because I love her so much. It was like I was laying hands on my daughter, you know, and I didn't think nothing of it. And she let me. And that to me is friends as well. Knowing that you got somebody who doesn't have any problem with seeing you at your best and at your worst.
Absolutely.
So speaking about people seeing you, like Dr. Doreen said, at your best, at your worst, as a woman, we know certain things that we hold true, our hair, the way we look. Can the panel speak to what was the impact of going through this diagnosis on your femininity as a woman, as a Black woman?
Okay, I'll talk. Well, I didn't want to get a double mastectomy. That was the only option they gave me, because we found like some pre-cancer in the right breast too. It was initially in the left breast, but then through imaging we saw it was in the other one. And the only option was to get reconstruction for both of them. And I was like, oh, I'm not getting this. Nobody's gonna ever want me if I don't have my two breasts. So I think it was maybe she left, Miss Christine. She said her mom walked around and looked in the mirror, and you know, I did that like the whole week before my surgery, and I was just looking at them like for the last time, like, okay girls, you know, we're about to get a new look, you know, going on. But it was hard. It was hard. Yeah. Initially after surgery, I was not feeling any of the results, but it turned out good. And I think that this really depends on a few things: where a patient is located, what type of doctor or surgeon they have access to. I've heard a lot of not so good stories with some patients saying that they weren't happy with their results or their surgery might have been botched. So this is why shopping around for a really good surgeon is good, a really good doctors in general is good, because you want to see their work. Um, Initially I was like, well, just cut them off. I don't have to have anything, because I was angry, but I had a doctor tell me, plastic surgeon, she said, this is going to help your mental health years from now. You being able to still feel a little bit more normal with your reconstructed breast is going to help you. And that if at that point you still feel like you don't want them, then you can of course have them removed. But I don't want to just take that away from you. So definitely the double mastectomy, I wasn't feeling it at first, but now I mean I love them. So and the other thing I think we were laughing about yesterday when we were getting ready with some of the side effects of the hormonal medication on your sexual health. I'll just note vaginal dryness and maybe vaginal atrophy. Oh my gosh, I won't say no more. I'll let y'all talk about that.
So we did have that discussion, and I ain't old yet, Laura, okay? But I'm still gonna make it work. Look, my gynecologist told me, she said, if you don't lose it, you will lose it. So we could do another whole piece on sexuality and life after sexual life after breast cancer. We could do a whole piece on that, but I'm not going to go into that too far. But yes, at 39, I did have those fears also. I was newly separated from my husband, and okay, who's going to want me with one breast? The reconstruction at that time, I mean, I was very pleased with what happened what the results, and lived with those results, and never had an issue with anyone with those results for over 28 years. Now, at close to 70, Laura, I had to make that decision on the left side. Do I want to have a mastectomy? No, that wasn't even a question. Do I want to have reconstruction, or do I want to do flat closure? And I went back and forth with that. I opted to have reconstruction, which I did have recently. So it's still kind of new. Still, things are still kind of new. I don't regret my decision, but it is a personal decision, and everyone has to feel comfortable in that decision. You do need to shop your doctors. Yes, you do need to see their work. I did keep my same plastic surgeon that I had back in 1992. So we have a connection, we have history, and I can call him up and say, Dr. Z, look, this is what I want. This is what I don't want to happen. Hook me up, fix me right, but we have that connection because I've been his patient since 1992. So yeah, lifestyle changes, sexuality is a big deal for us, for women, period. And there we could go into a whole nother couple hours with that. And yeah. and we'd have to find some experts to help us along with that, as far as medical professionals. But it is a big deal. It is a big deal, from hair, losing it, gaining it, not coming back, to everything else.
Yeah. For me, it was a little different because I didn't have a mastectomy. I had a lumpectomy. So I still had both of my breasts, but one was smaller than the other, and one had a big scar on it, and so I was married, and so I was thinking that maybe I might not be as desirable to my husband as I was prior to my surgery. And also, I like to, before the breast cancer and before I had the surgery, I used to wear the sexy, bras with the matching panties and all of that. And, and then now I can't even find a bra to fit right because one breast is bigger than the other, so that was like very discouraging and very frustrating, even when your clothes, like worrying about how my clothes are going to look. Am I going to look like I have a full breast? One of the things that happened because of my radiation, I developed a seroma in my breast, and that actually helped me because it then gave me that fullness that I didn't, so that I wouldn't have that indentation from the tissues that were removed from the lumpectomy, when they take out the tissues and so your breast is in a different form. And then as the other ladies say, the whole thing with, with the sex and all of that. So it was, just luckily, having, I think one of the blessings for me was that my husband and I, we had been high school sweethearts. So we have been together for a long time. So I had someone that like really truly loved me, and that was the test. When all this happened and all this went down, that was really the true test, whether, because sometimes I've heard women, the men walk away or whatever, but that was really the true test at that time.
Good. I just, because Chris isn't here, her computer crashed, but I gotta give the line that she tell about her mom. She said her mother kept her good humor during the entire process. The night before her surgery, she went around the house mirror to mirror without her bra on, saying to her left breast, "Your sister has to leave you so we won't get sick. She's just not right for you." I love that line that Chris gave me that. I said, that is so true, that you have to have a sense of humor.
You do.
So I do want to talk a little bit more about support. African-American women are still, even though the incidence of breast cancer is lower than their white counterparts, they're dying at 40% a higher rate than they are. As a nurse, I know access to healthcare, access is everything. As a case manager, I know access to healthcare costs money. So one of the questions I want to pose to the panel, what was the financial impact that cancer had on yourself and your family and your ability to live financially like you were before the diagnosis?
I can say that because I was employed, I had a really good job and good health care with that job, that both instances, even the second time, the impact was manageable. And because there are certain legislations in place in regards to like Reconstruction, the 1998 Breast Cancer Act, or legislation in 1998 in regards to Reconstruction is to be paid for. You may have some copay, but the majority of it is paid for. I did come across and was offered support by different breast cancer support groups. There are groups like Living Beyond Breast Cancer and Unite for Her and the American Cancer Society that offer grants to help pay for bills, groceries, other housekeeping finances that you may need help with. So me personally, I can say I was blessed that I was able to manage the copays. If I didn't have the insurance that I had or was able to manage the copays, I don't know what I would have done, because it can be very daunting. the specialists, doing chemotherapy. I had 16 rounds of chemotherapy, 8 of 2 different types. One was adriamycin and Cytoxan, which is the red devil, and the other one was Taxol. And there are drugs that they give you to help alleviate some of the side effects before you get the side effects. I'm saying this to say there is one that's called a Neulasta patch. And that patch in itself for each time that it was put on my arm was $8,000. Some people can't afford that. So that's where some of the support groups come through. I mean, you can even talk to your state representative or congressman and let them know they do have avenues and resources to help you with financial. The cost of cancer can be very high, bottom line. It can be very high. And so far, personally, I was able to, to deal with it. I mean, I'm still, trust me, probably get some bills coming through here pretty soon, but I think they'll be manageable in regards to co-payments. But I've seen some of the bills that have been paid by the insurances, and they're astronomical.
Yes, they are.
Just the off the wall, off the chain, to be honest. The reconstruction I just had, just the hospital bill alone was $35,000. That's just the hospital bill. That's not the doctor bill. That's not the anesthesiologist bill. That's not the nurse anesthetist bill. That's not, So the cost of cancer is high, but there are resources to help you with that.
Yeah, most definitely. I too was employed, and I had really good insurance. But one of the things it made me think about what Dr. Bailey had said earlier about young women having breast cancer. A lot of times when you take on a job, people don't get the extra insurance. I went to HR and someone told me, get the disability insurance, get this type of insurance. And having that extra disability insurance ended up being a blessing in disguise because, I took a FMLA, understanding your benefits. So I took a FMLA because I was worried about job security. When something like that happens, you're not telling everybody. I really didn't want to tell my supervisor, but I had to because I knew that I was going to be out going through these treatments. And then also I felt like that luckily I also had you have to lose up your sick time. So I had a lot of sick time that I had accumulated over. So I used all that up. That helped to cover some of those months. And then by the time my sick time was out, that's when my disability insurance kicked in. And my disability insurance paid 80% of my salary. So that was the blessing because it would have been an impact if that salary was lost because we were living based on 2 incomes. And everyone is living their lives based on one or whatever, 1 or 2 incomes. And so it's really important to, have that extra insurance. I did not seek any extra help or anything because I really didn't know, but today, there's so much information out here. And we did put in the chat, like all these different resource organizations that offer support services.
And I just want to piggyback. Unlike Karen and Ms. Laura, I was unemployed at the time of my diagnosis. So my only option was I could either get in health insurance. This is specifically an issue that happens with younger breast cancer patients. They're either still on their parents' insurance or they're on their own living independently and they might be underinsured or not have insurance at all, which is very dangerous. I was under my father's insurance, I believe, but we found that a better option would be for me to enroll in the breast and cervical cancer prevention and treatment program through the state of Pennsylvania. And this covered all of my treatment. It covered my chemotherapy, I was listening to you, Ms. Karen, you mentioned your price for your surgery. I won't say mine because it was also in outer space. But yes, it was extremely high. It covered that as well. So there's options for both ends. Ms. Laura, I love what you said about paying into disability insurance. A lot of young people opt out of that because they just don't think
Busy
anything's
young.
going to happen to them. But it's really important to have that, because if you want to keep your job, you can get FMLA and also use that at the same time. So I love those responses.
Janae, was there any, in terms of support and resources, was there anything, any groups or anything that you had come across that you felt would really benefit our, particularly African Americans?
Definitely. I believe that the Young Survivor Coalition I'll speak for younger patients first, and then another organization for everyone. The Young Survivor Coalition was an amazing organization that actually they have meetup groups and social media pages where you are able to go online and do meetups online if it was in the middle of pandemic, or go in person and talk to other breast cancer patients. I made a lot of friends that way. I also found out about a lot of interesting resources through meeting people through those meetups as well. Another place that I went to initially before I got pretty social in dealing with other patients that were like me was breastcancer.org, where I'm on the advisory board for right now. That's a very nice place to go to if you are just first diagnosed and there's nothing that there's people that you can talk to. There's forums on there specifically for African American and minority women, or women who are over the age of 50. There's even forums or groups online for your specific type and stage of breast cancer as well. So I would suggest those for African American women as well. There's a few others that are probably floating around in my head, and I'll put them in the chat once I remember before we end.
Okay. I remember you did speak a little bit about a nutrition one
Oh,
that I was flabbergasted
thank you so
about.
much for saying that. Yes, Unite for Her is an amazing nonprofit that I found out about through my oncologist, actually, at University of Pennsylvania. Unite for Her has a wellness program for people who are diagnosed. Basically, you would join the wellness day. It would be a wellness day, and they would come out and speak to you about things that you do have control over as a patient, which is what we spoke about: lifestyle, your diet, exercise, complementary medicine, also acupuncture, massage, and so much more. And because I enrolled in that program during my 4 months of treatment, I received fresh produce every week from a Lancaster farm through a co-op, and my co-op share was paid for the entire length of my treatment, which is amazing. We all know that eating cleaner, we all can't eat everything clean, but eating cleaner is a really good step to being healthier, especially while you're in treatment. So Unite for Her was just added into the chat. Thank you for saying that. I almost slipped my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
found that to be amazing.
yeah, I want to piggyback on that. I was a recipient of Unite for Her also.
Awesome.
My box was amazing. I'm still using some of the products. And I met so many people in regards to that. I've even nominated other women who are going through breast cancer. Anybody can do that through Unite for Her. They do give you a lot of resources and some perks. You did I did the produce, I also did the meals, and I did the massages. I have lymphedema in my right arm. That's another subject of a side effect, because they take lymph nodes out of your arm. Because I had suspicious lymph nodes in my right arm, has a bit of lymphedema. So I was able to get drainage massages through Unite for Her, which was complimentary. So yes, kudos. I can't say enough about that organization. Was a great help for me.
Well, I wanted to, I'm sorry, someone else? I want to thank all you ladies for being brave and being thrivers and survivors to tell your story. I am going to hand it back over to Dr. Lori to close us out. And before she does, she's going to give us some more information on our keynote speaker, Dr. Bailey's event that's coming up.
First of all, has this not been an inspirational evening? And I want to thank our panelists, Ms. Janae Boussalet, Mama Christine, Karen Oliver, and Miss Laura Reddick, and our moderator, just our moderator, Miss Sherry Johnson. So I want to thank you all, because in the chat, I can even see people really are enjoying this informal piece of making sure we send out information, but in a way that people can digest it and understand it. And there's nothing better than the personal in doing that. When you tell your personal stories, then people really feel what's going on. And I really want to thank so many of our friends who came and listened. I'm looking at the chat, and I think some of the people, I know we've got somebody from California, and that's a former student, Corinne Gwynn, and I even got a sister from our from NCNW Social Justice Committee. So I really, and my old friend and all of our friends, Miss Angela McNeil from Arcadia University. So we've got so many good folks who are here and listen for the information. Oh, I can't believe I just here too, Janae. This is my whole class.
She is.
So we are so happy that you all have decided to come and spend your Saturday evening with us. Our illustrious second vice president has made sure that the website is in the chat. Now, y'all need to come on and join NCNW, the Del Val section, okay? We are a fun group. All right, we are a group. Look at it. Go ahead. What are you putting up?
I'm trying to put up the scarf, but the background.
Our scarves. Yeah, our scarves. Okay.
And our pins and our necklaces and everything.
We are in the vein of Mary McLeod Bethune. And I've even put in the chat earlier, really to understand this activist woman and knowing what her mission was in 1930s, and being a Black woman who who could not read at one time, who said that when she got education and learned how to read, the world opened up to her. And that is so important. Started her own college. Come on, y'all. Was in the Black cabinet with Eleanor Roosevelt. Made sure that Black women were in the military. There is so much I could go on and on about this woman, which is why so many of us are in NCNW, because we know the power of women and women organizations. And that's what NCNW is. I bring you greetings also from our president, Juanita Jenkins. And Juanita is literally up in the boondocks. I'm sorry, I call it the boondocks. Where is she, you all? Up in somewhere in the boondocks, opening up another charter. They're actually up there with our president, our state president, Tamiko, opening up. And so again, we're on the move. And all we're saying to you all is NCNW is ready, willing, and able to bring you in, embrace you, and show you love. And not every organization is willing to do all that. We're willing to show you love. And as you can see, we are an intergenerational set of folks. We want to hear from all women and what their ideas were. I could not get along without the older friends I have, but also my younger friends, because y'all know, but with this technology and with beyond technology, but just the ideas that you all come up with and help us with, that's why I taught for so long, because I wanted to stay around young people and learn all I could. So again, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want you all to have a wonderful weekend. Please remember our veterans next Friday, okay, for Veterans Day. And everybody make sure you go see Wakanda Forever, okay? Wakanda Forever.
And Dr. Lori, can you just mention Dr. Bailey's event one last time?
Yes, in fact, Laura's going to put it up for me one last time.
Okay.
Well, actually, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this group. And it is in the chat. So if you scroll up, it was one of the first things I put in when Dr.
Okay.
Bailey was online talking to us. And her film is A Letter to My Sisters, a breast cancer documentary for young women. It's going to be held on Wednesday, December the 7th, at 7 p.m. and in Theater M at 1007 North Orange Street, Wilmington, Delaware, 19801. And you'll get complimentary popcorn.
Yeah.
And the fee is $20, and the proceeds will go to this, like I said, this speaker, if you missed her, she was phenomenal. And she has a passion for helping homeless people, as well as working with young women who have breast cancer. So all of the contributions is going towards the organizations that she supports. So come out and support her. And even if you can't come, go and register and give her the $20 donation.
Exactly. And that's a good one, Laura. And we're gonna do a road trip. I'm looking at Tola, Janae, and Acha. We're gonna do a road trip. Okay. And
I could actually allow them to talk if you want me to. Okay, we have
please do.
Ashaya.
Aisha.
Aisha?
Aisha.
Aisha?
Oh my gosh, Dr. Lowry, I'm so excited.
Okay, and then we have Celeste Ruffin.
Hey, Celeste.
Oh, she probably off her mic. Well, I'm gonna go on to Corinne. I'm allowing Corinne to say
hello, everybody.
Hello.
Corinne, where are you calling
Wonderful program, ladies. Wonderful program. Good information. Thank you.
Where are you calling from, Corinne?
Hello, it's Corinne Quinn. I am a member of the National Council of Negro Women Golden Gate section in San Francisco, California.
Wow.
Thank you, sister.
And a former student.
And a former student.
Wow.
I am a MPH, Master's in Public Health graduate of Arcadia University, class of 2005.
All right.
Is that my
now
Deborah?
We have Deborah Richardson.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I am with the Sacramento, California Valley section, and I'm on the National Social Justice Committee with Dr. Lowry. And this was just so absolutely inspirational and informative. I've learned so much, and I just thank you all for having this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah, for coming. I so appreciate it. You got, because it's a whole different time out there.
Yeah, and we have Lori Odom. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I thoroughly enjoyed this event, and I will talk to Karen a little bit more about some of the issues. And I will talk to Karen also about going to Wilmington for that event. She'll be my ride.
Awesome. And we have the daughter of Dr. Lowry, Miss Michelle Wilson.
She's probably not going to come on camera.
Well, she's probably not going to come on. Okay. We have Miss Pat Alford, another one of our Delaware Valley sisters in New Mexico. Pat, are you with us?
I am. I don't know can you hear me?
Yes.
This was phenomenal, phenomenal, extraordinary to hear the young people and what has happened to them. But you know what, Laura, you better stop talking about 70-year-olds.
I just put in the chat, women over 70. Right?
I know.
And I'll extend the invitation to all you women to come out to New Mexico. You don't have to go. I keep saying you don't have to go to a hotel. We'll give you some Southwest hospitality.
I'm a
road trip.
I'm a traveler. I'm on my way.
Come on. Congratulations to the planning committee, as usual, with Dr. Lowry's leadership is always awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. And we have Tola.
Tola.
Hello. Happy Saturday, ladies. This was amazing. I am a sister friend of Janae and a former student of Dr. Lowry. And I am honored that I got to be here. And thank you so much for such an amazing talk.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
And we have Victoria Jones. Okay, Victoria, are you there? I guess she's still muted. Okay, well, ladies, we'd like to thank you. Thank you for giving us a shout out. And we appreciate, as Dr. Lowry said, for joining us for this this very important discussion. And we hope we don't want you to become a part of our club. We want you to have good health. And we thank you, and you have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Good show.
All right. Have a good night.
Yes, thanks to all.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night. All right, y'all, take a breath.
Woo! We did it. We did it.
In the right order. I was all over.
Oh my God.